It's about connecting yourself to nature. It's about eating properly, what your body needs. And it's about movement. Movement. When we don't move intellectually, we stagnate. When we don't move emotionally, we deny our feelings. When we don't move physically, our bodies break down. Movement is the fundamental cornerstone of well-being. That's where we start, movement. That's why kids run around and dance around and play around. Little kids get up and fall down and get up and fall down. Here's something people don't know. The number one predictor for death is the inability to get up off the floor. So if you get down on the floor and you can't get up easily, your well-being can be improved. I don't want to scare anybody, but let's say you can't get up very well. You have arthritis, or you have some kind of other malady or obesity. It's very difficult for you to get down on the floor and to get up. Let's remember Christ said, be like a little child. A great exercise, and do it with your doctor's guidance. Don't do anything that puts your life at risk. But just get down on the floor and work on getting up. It's a very simple exercise. And when it gets warm in your area, do it on the grass with bare feet. Get on the ground, in the grass, in the dirt, and learn how to get up. And maybe in a future podcast, I'll demonstrate, because it's a beautiful feeling to be able to get up off the floor with some style. Style is important. You know, there's a few things that we have as human beings that cannot be taken away from us. They can take my freedom. They can take all my money. They can take a lot of things from me, but they can't take my smiles and my cries. They can't take my smiles and my cries. And they can't take my style. That's all my own. Can't take it from me. You can't pry it away from me. So I have my smiles and my cries, and I have my style. And everyone needs to develop their smiles and their cries and their style, because then they become authentic. That's what we're looking for. Authenticity, honesty, transparency, and just a little idea, being able to get up off the floor, because you've heard this before. It's not getting knocked down that matters. It's getting up that matters. And that ability to get up physically is a metaphor for us as the American people to be able to get up spiritually. We have to rise up spiritually. That is a critical dimension of our current challenge. Could you please play this first clip about the colonial life?
People in colonial America had to work hard to make a living. Without the labor-saving machines we enjoy today, they had to meet many of their needs for food, clothing, and shelter through their own effort. All family members worked together to carry out this work. Many times, an extended family would live together in one house on one plot of land. Parents, children, aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents all contributed to daily chores. At home, men and women worked hard, but their responsibilities were usually different. Women took care of the house and the land immediately around it. Cooking and cleaning were time-consuming tasks, and they had to do all that work by hand. Along with handling these household chores, farm wives often helped their husbands. At busy times, like planting and harvesting, they helped in the fields. Men headed their households, and they spent most of their time working. They took responsibility for running the farms and did the planting, plowing, and gathering of crops. They also built their homes and hunted animals for food. Children helped at home too. Young children had tasks like gathering wood and water. Older girls helped their mothers with the household work. Older boys helped their fathers in the fields. Colonial America had three social groups or classes. Most people belonged to the middle class. They owned farms or businesses. The small upper class or gentry included wealthy farmers, government officials, and lawyers. At the bottom were indentured servants and enslaved Africans. Indentured servants received passage to America on a ship. In return, they agreed to work for a specific period of time for the person who paid for their passage. Once that period was finished, they received land, tools, and other supplies to help them start their own farms. Colonists were able to govern themselves. In 1619, the leaders of Virginia gave free white males the right to vote for representatives they called burgesses. This was the first representative assembly in the colonies. Other colonies created similar governing bodies. But Britain also passed laws that affected the colonies. Britain would gain financially if the colonies were successful. To ensure this success, Britain passed trade laws that taxed all goods imported to or exported from the colonies. Colonists were part of a triangular trade network. Shippers carried goods from Europe to West Africa, where they were traded for slaves. They took the slaves to the Americas. The people were traded for sugar and other goods. These were carried back to Europe. Most people who bought Africans owned plantations. The Africans tended the crops grown on these large farms and did other work in the plantation house and the fields. Considered property, the Africans had no freedoms, but this did not keep them from developing their own culture. African traditions influenced language, cooking, and music. Life in the colonies could be harsh. Farmers faced bad weather, drought, disease, and the fear of the unknown. But the brave people who first settled in North America would soon create a new nation.
Horace Mann was born.
Well, that's a very idealized portrayal of life in the early part of this country's history. But there's some things here that we really need to think about. Number one, these people were out in nature all day, every day. All day, every day. This is not modern life. Many of us never go out in nature anymore. We're in a very digitized environment, and we've lost the ability as some of us as people, or perhaps all of us as a collective community, we've degraded our ability to be in nature. We're weaker. We're actually statistically, just biometrically weaker, just weaker compared to the people that grew up in the 50s and 60s. People are getting weaker because we don't have to work as much outside. They talked about the families lived together, the fathers, the mothers, the children, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins. Everybody was connected together in a communal effort to survive. Survival was predicated on community. Now, people can survive atomized, and many people are all alone. Our communities now are moving into a digital space, which kind of bizarre, right? This is a digital space. I'm saying let's create a community, but actually I'm looking forward to the day where I can call upon this community and 10,000 of us will meet in the same time, at the same time and in the same place, so that we can practice our will publicly and as a group. We thrive as human beings in connection with other human beings. So as far as our well-being goes, it's very important that we're involved in community. I have a community that I'm involved with where I'm involved with actual people, and I'm actually looking at them, and I'm listening to them, and I care about them, and I hope they care about me. As far as the political life goes, our politicians and our political organizations have removed the political cultural aspects and made hanging around in politics very unpleasant and conflict orientated. This is by intent, because good people don't want to participate in activities organized by bad people. Very simple. Let's get rid of the bad people and let's bring good people in and build a political culture nationally, from sea to shining sea, from the north to the south, and from the west to the east. Let us ensue well-being. I know it sounds a little bit fantastic, but when we think about what are these people supposed to be doing for us, only one thing: ensure the general welfare. It's right in the preamble of the Constitution. Anything else that they're doing, provide for the common defense, not have an offensive military empire with 800 military bases outside the country, most of them with 350 golf courses scattered around the world with a $1 trillion military budget every year. This is not constitutional. This is something that developed because we, the people, were not involved in the political process. I'm not mad about it. It's an experiment. We had an experiment, and the results need to be reviewed. Are we happy with the Virgin Nuclear War? People starving all over the world? Health and well-being on the decline? Are we happy with this? Is this outcome what we seek? And I'm going to say it's not what I seek, and I hope it's not what you seek. So in this thought experience, in this experiment of consciousness, this experiment of humanity, we now have the opportunity to redirect, reconsider, refocus, reformat. And that's what we're doing. We're at a crossroads. Humanity is at a crossroads. We want to take all the good and we want to minimize the bad. So that's what we're working on here on the Professor Penn podcast. That's what I'm working on in my life. And that's what I hope you'll start working on, or you are working on in your life.